Everybody, JayC here, and welcome to a Thursday night live stream. We're back on Thursdays, and if all goes well, I'm going to be having ShartimusPrime on here in a little bit, and we are going to talk about his new Kickstarter campaign for his action figure line called Street Humans. Now, I say if all goes well, because this will be the very first time I've tried bringing on a guest for a live stream, so I'm not promising we're not going to have technical difficulties, but there you go. So as we wait for Shartimus to join us, let's just see who is on here tonight. So we've got Michael. What's up? Good to see you, my friend. Paul Morales is joining in. Clay, what's up? Mr. Allmine. Adam, what's up? Now, besides Street Humans, there's another crowdsourcing campaign you might have heard about, Marvel Legends Giant Man, which is entering its final days. We are just over 4 days left on that campaign, and so we'll probably be talking a little bit about that as well, and the fact that it is yet to reach its minimum funding goal of 10,000. In fact, as of right now, it still has over 3,000 backers to go before it reaches that minimum 10,000. So we'll definitely pick Shartimus's brain on that. And hold on a second. And who knows what else we'll talk about? How about Masters of the Universe Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle figures? So that was announced this week, and overall, I think pretty cool. In fact, let's take a quick look at those for those of you who are not familiar with these. So they released packaging images today if you missed those. So I like these. I like the WWE Masters of the Universe mashup line that they did a couple years ago. And even though I'm not really into WWE figures, I really thought that was a cool line. So I'm looking forward to, what they're going to do with this. So this is He-Man, Mutagen He-Man, I guess is how you say it. And I don't know if this is supposed to be like a faker or of He-Man, because I got to imagine there's going to be a regular version of He-Man that they do. Donatello with his Man-at-Arms type armor. I like this Man-at-Arms figure. I think this would, if you collect like just the regular Masters of the Universe Origins, I really feel like this would be a good one to have with those.
Just popped in,
even though he does have the big turtle shoulder pad and shield. There's the back of the packaging. We get a look at Shredder, but that Shredder just looks like normal Shredder. I don't see any Masters of the Universe influence on that Shredder, so I don't know if, I've got to imagine we're going to get some type of Masters of the Universe Shredder, not just a regular Shredder, when they get to him. That's not a character that we've seen so far. I guess this is the first wave down below. They've shown two other figures, Trapjaw and Krang, but I guess this is technically the first wave, the two turtles and Mutagen He-Man and Man-at-Arms. So, and no idea where this is going to come. Oh, wait, Shartimus is joining us. Hold on, let me make sure we got him. Hey, Shartimus, can you hear me? Can you hear us? Can you hear us? I don't think he can hear us. Yeah, I told you we were going to have technical difficulties.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I think they can hear you.
Oh, no, you can't?
No, I can hear you.
Yep. But
right.
You can't hear me?
Hold on a sec.
Oh, okay, cool. All right. There's a little bit of a delay here.
Yeah, it sounds like there's a delay.
Okay, so if I close that, I'm trying to... okay. If you could say something again, that'd be great, and then I'll know if I could hear you.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? On a delay. All right, let me try something. How about now? Any better? Nope, still delay. I can tell. All right. Well, I can hear you. I don't know if the audience can hear you.
Sorry about that. I just needed to get some water.
It's okay.
It's just a little bit hot out there today.
All right, so I think we're all good here.
Okay.
Maybe. Can you hear me? That I think made it worse. Hold on, let me try one more thing.
I can hear you.
Oh, you can hear me? Okay. I think there's just like a big delay. I'm trying to see if I can.
VDO. Looks like. What if I refresh?
Yeah, try refreshing. Like log out and log back in. There we go. As I said, my first time having a guest on, so I told you there was going to be some technical difficulties here. That's why I had Shark come on because me and Shark know each other personally. So I was like, if I screw things up, I won't be too embarrassed.
Oh, that's awesome.
All right, can you hear me?
Yeah, you'll be fine.
Let's try taking it down. All right, you can
I can
you
hear
hear me?
you, but yeah, there
Okay,
is a wicked delay though.
okay. All right, well, um, we'll try and work with the delay, but Chartimus is here and he is here to talk about Street Humans, of course, his new Kickstarter, which let us let's pop over here and we can see. Yeah, I wish I could get this delay to. But
406 backers.
yeah, man. So why don't you tell us a little bit about? I'll let you tell the folks, like, just in case they haven't heard about Street Humans. What it's all about.
Yeah, man. So Street Humans, the idea came to me from getting my Marvel Legends and other figures in displays and just feeling like there was a big hole in the display as far as civilian figures go. And I'm hearing my own voice. So, sorry, now my own voice is coming back at me. I think I got that cleared. But so I have this stream on mute, so I won't be able to hear you while I'm talking. I'll unmute it after I'm done talking, and then there'll probably be a delay, and then you can hear me, or then I'll be able to hear you. Uh, but yeah, I just really wanted civilians in my action figure display. Like that's something that was just kind of bothering me. I was just getting tired of reusing the same figures and the same body molds, and just not really happy with how it was it was looking whenever I would try to get some kind of, urban fight scene. And I wanted to do something that was like a little bit unique, something that could allow for some creativity. So I wanted interchangeability to be a huge theme with an action figure line with civilian designs. And from the very beginning, I had these designs so that you could remove their arms, so that you could remove their waists and swap their waists around. And I wanted multi-ethnic figures, so we have a black figure, a Latin figure, a white figure, an Asian figure. But right now, the first two figures available are Alago and Eon, and hopefully, if we can get to all those stretch goals, we'll have all the characters and all of their accessories. There are limitless possibilities with this line. Starting out, each figure will come with an alien head, which is actually a new addition. Originally, we just had two human bald heads, but now Alago's alien form head will be included with no extra cost. I'm asking $28 a figure. I feel like that's a very fair amount, especially with this being, an independent company, Kickstarter, launching itself, so $28 a figure. You get two sets of hands, three heads, and you get two weapons. And these are compatible with a lot of 1/12 scale figures. They stand a little over 6.5 inches tall. So I wanted these to be big, mean dudes, and they fit in perfectly with my Marvel Legends display. My Marvel Legends display.
Cool. I'm widening it up so if you want to show it off a little bit more so people can see it better. I enlarged the screen for you so you can show the figure you have in your hand off a little bit more. So, just like feedback I've been hearing from folks is like, so I assume when you created this line, you kind of envisioned this being like a compatible line with other action figure lines. I mean, I know you've got your own backstory, but I feel like, making them goons and thugs and things like that to like fight your Marvel Legends and stuff is kind of where your head was at when you came up with this idea, or am I misinterpreting that?
That's exactly where the original Kane's concept came from. Is that I wanted to have a variety of goons to fight my superheroes in my displays. So that's where the original idea was conceived. But shortly after drawing everything out, I really felt like something was missing, and I wanted to include that sci-fi element with the shape-shifting aliens in there. But yeah, the original inspiration came from wanting to have extra civilian figures in my display.
Now, you started out, I mean, you started as a YouTuber, as a reviewer, and you've kind of conquered that field. I mean, you're probably one of the premier toy tubers. I don't know. Do you embrace that name, toy tuber? Is that something you embrace? That's a fairly relatively new term I've been hearing people use. But you were definitely kind of on the ground floor. I won't say you were one of the first toy reviewers because you weren't, but you definitely were there on the ground floor. And obviously, there's not too many people out there that really, specifically deal with action figures and reviews that has like over 600,000 subscribers on their channel. So you started out with that, but how did you decide? Like, just one day you were like, I want to make an action figure line, or is this something you've always wanted to do, or how did that come about?
I remember the first time I really wanted to work on figures, I think was around 2013. Like that was like the first time I actually was like, and inspired by the designer of the Street Humans line, Vinny Fontes. because way back in the day, I had a contest where I wanted viewers to create their own Marvel Legends line, create your own dream Marvel Legends line, and the winner. Like most of us, like kind of used pictures of characters that we found online, but like the winner of the contest from Brazil with Love, he had like thoroughly drawn everything out with the joints and the articulation and everything, and it was really impressive. Like he blew everybody's mind. I mean, he could actually now, like Vinny's actually a sculptor to his own right, and he's still an amazing artist in various mediums. But inspired by that, I was like, I want to see if I can make a Jubilee figure. Hasbro's just dropping the ball left and right on Jubilee, and it started with me drawing Jubilee, and then I think in 2019 I had that experience of going to the Avengers Endgame premiere, and I remember thinking to myself like, wow, this is kind of cool, like, you know, meeting the people from Comic Cave Studios and stuff like that. And I was thinking to myself like, wow, how cool would it be to actually like try to get into this industry one way or another. And I remember talking to, I actually had thrown the idea to Jesse Falcon at one point, you know, talked to him about it, and you know, he shined some light on me and everything. But I've always been doing, you know, this toy tubing thing, and not really until deep into not even that deep into the pandemic. I want to say like even before 2020 I had this concept, but in May of 2020 it didn't even take that long for me to like start losing my mind from not being able to perform, because I'm a musician. If I don't play drums, I start going crazy, and I start finding different ways to get my creative juices flowing. So without being able to perform, rehearse, have practices, do any of that stuff, it was driving me nuts, and I needed an outlet. And this became that outlet. So this is what really tipped things over for me to just really go for it. And I have been having an amazing time doing it. So this is a product of the pandemic, but there's a lot of other stuff before that that kind of had built up into this.
We now for those of us that like I know some generals about the stuff, but I really don't know what is involved in actually, you know, from the thought of, you know, you think up the, you know, the idea to actually making it into a physical mass produced action figure. So, you know, I don't want you to give away any trade secrets, but like, can you kind of walk us through what that process is and like how difficult it is? Like, can anybody basically, you know, do you think anybody can do a Kickstarter these days, or, you know, if they have some money to, I mean, because I assume you hired people because you're not a sculptor and you're not a designer yourself. So, you know, and I know like you worked with Dave Honor on this project. So I assume you went out and hired people to actually, you know, create the prototypes and things like that. But like what is kind of the process of, you know, taking it from the idea in your head to actually having something physical in your hand that you can sell to people?
Like there's several ways you can go about doing it. Like there's it could be as simple as hiring a sculptor and then printing and then taking that file and printing it on a 3D printer yourself, and maybe hiring somebody to paint it or painting it yourself or whatever. So like it could be super simple in that kind of way, but I think my path, I mean, everybody's path is going to be different, right? Like, I don't think there's like one particular linear method of doing this. It wasn't like that for me anyway. So, yes, I've paid everybody that I've worked with money to work on the project, of course. And the way I went about it first was I think if you want to make your own figure line, I think it's very important to have some kind of artistic ability. Like that should be a given. Now, I'm a musician. I'm not an artist, but I can draw a little bit. I can convey ideas. I can get artists to know what I'm going for. So I could draw just enough to get my ideas across. So it started with concept art. I drew very rough, ugly sketches, you know, and Vinny and I, our designer, spent a lot of time on Zoom calls, like basically playing, like going back and forth with what we could see and what we could do here. And you know, of course, he would throw his ideas in there. And I gotta say, like, yeah, if you want to run a Kickstarter, get prepared to like, you know, have a lot of meetings because you need to. While I'm not the sculptor and I'm not the designer, like I'm in there. So I'm part of every single process. There's not one part of this thing that I have not had my fingers deep involved with. So with the design process, you know, we worked on that and got drawings set up to a point where I was really happy with them. Then from then on, Dave Bonner hooked me up with Brandon Gash, our sculptor. And same thing, we have a conversation. I pitch the idea, let him know what I have in mind, the vision I have in mind, and then he kind of throws out, you know, his reinterpretation of my ideas and what he feels like he can add to it and everything, and we go from there. And I really feel like I've been super lucky to work with people that are just like that. And I guess being a good communicator has been part of this because I mean that's one thing I do making YouTube videos is communicating to people what I think is cool, what I think is not cool, what I'd like to see, right? So using those skills in communicating, getting what I want out of these artists, like what I want to see from them. I feel like getting what I want out of them because it's not like you put a coin in there and the soda drops out. Like they have their own take, they have their own influence on these. And so, and then going from there, I had really awesome 3D printer expert. I'm calling him a 3D printing expert, the bearded blonde. I'd sent him my files and he'd sent me a whole bunch of 3D prints of all the pieces of my figure. And I put them all together. Like every little tiny little piece and pin, every little ball joint, every little hinge, I put that together so I know what my figure is made out of. So I know every single little piece. I felt like that was an important process for me to go through, even though I didn't sculpt everything and I had asked for all this stuff. I needed to put it together and get my hands on it myself. Kind of like when I got my first drum set that was covered in rust. I had to take off every lug, every bolt, every screw, every washer, and clean it off with Brasso and put it back together. When you go through that process, you really get yourself familiar with what you're working with, right? So I had that 3D print, and then from there, I started painting some heads myself, and then communicating with the factory, got in touch with the really good factory through Mr. Bonner. And from there, it's a very similar process, kind of like working with the sculptor, except they're working a little bit more on the engineering side. So doing lots and lots of Zoom calls and FaceTime calls and screen sharing and looking at the guts of the figure, looking at how the guts are changing in the figure and how pins are going to work, working out logistics. Like one thing that's really important this line and that was really tricky to work out was getting butterfly joints and removable arms all at the same time. I have never seen anybody do this. That's another thing is I wanted to bring something to the table. I didn't want it to be my YouTube channel like as the selling point. You know what I mean? I want the figures to be the selling point. So I wanted to offer something new, different, somewhat familiar, but something fresh, you know? And I haven't seen any 1/12 scale line that has butterfly joints and removable arms like this. So this was an inspiration from the Marvel Legends Mr. Fantastic. That's where I first got the idea for that. And working closely with the factory, getting this to work has been great. Luckily, being a YouTuber at the level of popularity that it's at, everybody I've worked with already knows who I am. Everybody I've worked with already knows what I want. They all have a general idea of what to expect from my expectations, which has made it a whole lot easier because you have to go in. If I say something like I want toe joints, nobody's surprised. You know what I mean? So I've been very lucky working with people that are just like immediately on the same page with me, which has really helped a lot. So, um, working closely with the factory in their model shop and then getting to this point was a huge step. And the painter did a fantastic job. The model shop did a great job with this. We made some tweaks and changes. Um, and our project manager, really knows what he's doing. Like they're really, really, really good. Like they know pretty much everything I know about action figures. Is pretty crazy. So um, I'm really happy with this prototype, and I can't wait to. I mean, I want this thing to get mass produced. I want it to get into people's hands so bad.
We now, speaking of the factory, because when it comes to, like, companies talking about getting action figures produced, especially small companies or individuals like yourself, that's usually where I start hearing about the horror stories of, they lose your mold, or they don't know how to do the articulation correctly, or things like that. So how have you, I mean, you said
Mhm.
Dave recommended the factory that you've gone to. So have you had like any kind of nightmare stories like that, or has it been pretty much smooth sailing for you?
It's been better than smooth sailing. It's like me and the project manager are just seeing eye to eye on everything. So um, it's more of like taking what I'm asking, and then they're going even further with it. Like I said, that like I've been lucky to work with people that kind of already have an idea of what I want. They're on the same page with me. This particular factory is known for, like, they really have a strong concern for making sure that their quality of product is going to be up to snuff over here. They're not messing around. It's not cheap. I'm not going the cheap route. I made sure I asked about, how are these employees being treated? Like, how is this, like, what kind of employees are working on these figures? And he was telling me, he's like, it's actually getting kind of hard to keep them because they're so talented and they're so skilled at this that we have to pay really competitive wages to keep them. So we're talking about really skilled workers over here. And if we have a batch of, they made it very clear to me, if there's like a whole batch of figures that don't come out right, that's going to be on them. So they have my back, and I'm making choices to make things work as smoothly for them on their end as much as possible. It's one of those things where it's like you really want to make sure that the people making these figures are happy. I'm not just talking about the specific, individual factory worker, but the project manager and what works for them, what makes things work their time, and respecting that and understanding what's how things are going to move smoothly on their end. I think probably, I don't know for sure with other people's experiences, but I do think that when there are those kinds of nightmare scenarios that you're talking about, I have a feeling that a lot of that comes from not necessarily working in tandem with the factory really well.
Gotcha. Now, recently, Big Bad Toy Store and I think Nerdzoic, a smaller retailer, but has started taking pre-orders for your figures. Now,
Gotcha.
kind of like, how does that work? Because obviously you're doing a Kickstarter, and if the Kickstarter were not to meet its funding goal, that means the figures don't happen, right? So, but like, are they just, they're not committing to a certain amount of order, they're just basically selling, helping you, is that how it kind of works? Is they're essentially helping you sell figures through the Kickstarter? Like, if Big Bad Toy Store commits to an order of, say, 500 figures, does that go into your Kickstarter total, or is that just something totally separate? um yeah, how does that work, and why, and this is just really more for my own knowledge because I've always been interested, but why is a retailer carrying figures that have not yet been had a successful Kickstarter? What's kind of the reasoning behind that?
So you pretty much nailed it. That's what it is. Like, and I talked about this on Dan's live earlier. Like, for Hella Dope Toys, what they do is they have a separate account where all those pre-orders go, and then when they get to a certain amount, they will take those orders and they'll pledge towards the Kickstarter, or they'll do one huge lump order with everything they have. That's how Big Bad Toy Store does it. That's why, like some other Kickstarters, you'll see a boost at the end. That's Big Bad Toy Store just basically transferring their orders onto the Kickstarter. And the reason for that, now from my point of view, the reason why I like doing that and having that available is because people that are used to ordering through a specific retailer have a sense of trust. They have a personal, like they feel like they have a relationship with that particular retailer. So they trust that retailer. If they would rather go with that retailer instead of using a Kickstarter, hey, that's fine with me. You know, Hella Dope Toys, they ship internationally. So I don't have direct shipping available for Canada. I mean, outside of North America. So I have Mexico, Canada, US, but outside of North America, if you want to pledge towards the Kickstarter, you got to do it through Hella Dope Toys. I've heard nothing but good things from them. They're a smaller retailer, but I've met and hung out with these guys a couple of times. The last two Power Cons, great guys. Numerous people from the industry have vouched for them, and I've heard customers vouch for them as well. So their international shipping is great. So that allows me to get more pledges because they're handling the legwork of shipping internationally. And then depending on who it is, yes. So get on board the Street Humans Trained Out. And then the second part, now the interest on their end, I think from talking to the three retailers that I'm working with right now, all three are extremely supportive of the campaign. So they genuinely want to help. They're like, if there's anything I could do to help this thing get backed, let me know. I'm interested. So they are personally invested in the project. They want the project to succeed. Also, I have an incentive for retailers that I can, once this thing is backed, I can give them a lower wholesale price. So there's that incentive as well. So there's a bit of business, and then there's just genuine passion for collecting involved in this, and it's been amazing. Like everybody I've been working with on this project, it's just been fantastic.
Roughly, if you don't know off the top of your head, but just like estimate like how many people besides yourself are actually like involved in making this project happen.
Well, um, like directly the people I've been talking to, not a lot. Like I mentioned, Vinny, our designer, and then Brandon, our sculptor. But it's like one of those things where, oh, I got my own voice talking to me. So, I mean, it's less like if you want to include the retailers or like me personally, the number of people I've been working with, we have our designer, we have our sculpt. I mean, Dave Bonner, of course, our designer, our sculptor, and we have our project manager from the factory. Like I've mostly been talking to four people, but I've also talked to like a bunch of other people outside of it that have just given me tips here and there. Bobby Vala's thrown advice my way. I've since the beginning of it, he's given me some references for some people and stuff, and I've gotten advice from numerous people. But as far as like working directly, it's really just been me and four other people really working on it. The artists, that's another thing. Working on that animated short was quite an ordeal. That took a lot. Our animator Beowulf Bruce Vernon. He did a fantastic job. Worked with some voice actors and everything. John Bailey, the epic voice guy. Jobby the Hong, Reg Henney. Uh, my wife did a voice for us, so that was really cool. So getting that animated short, that was a lot of extra work. The musician Diego, he did a great job on the music. So one thing that's been a benefit for me is I already know how to make videos and stuff like that. So that's really helped me a lot, where I haven't had to work with other, like, I put that animated short together, and the ads that you see for the Street Humans, I've put that stuff together. So of course I've used a lot of my YouTubing, my toy tuber skills in on this project.
We now I gotta ask. Right now, you've got 16 days to go for this campaign. You're at $34,400. Your backer goal, your minimum backer goal is 120,000. So that does seem like a fairly steep hill to climb. If this didn't get funded, where does Street Humans go from here? Will you try again, or this is the second time you've done the Kickstarter, so will you try and go a different route, or what? Hopefully this will get funded at the end of the day. But if by chance it doesn't, do you have like a plan B, or are you just going to kind of like pull the plug on the project?
Uh, at this point, I can't pull the plug on the project, and that's never been a plan B for me, is to just quit. So I've already spent the last 2 years working on this thing. To stop right now, it'd be like, well, you're a runner, Jay. Like, what? Like, imagine doing running a whole marathon and then just giving up on the last mile or the last couple of miles. You know what I mean? It's taken so much to get to this point that I do have a plan B involved. I don't want to disclose what that plan is, because there is a plan C and a plan D. So it may be one of those three options, and I don't necessarily want to put that out there because I don't want to disappoint expectations. And I also want us to focus on really getting this project back the way it is right here. We have, we have 28% of this project funded, 16 days to go. That is a hill to climb, but it's still climbing. It has been going up every single day, and everybody's Kickstarter works differently. I have a feeling that there's just people that are kind of just waiting to see. Also, I don't even know exactly how many people have backed the project through the various retailers as well. So, while we're looking at 406 right here as far as the number of backers, it's actually more than that. And what that true number actually is at this point, I don't know. But I still need to see that number, go up. And I think more and more people are getting more and more excited about the project as we're moving along. I see it in the comments, and it's really fun to see. And I think one thing that's gotten a lot of people pumped about this is that I've included the alien heads, which I mentioned earlier were not included in the Kickstarter originally. Seeing that kind of reaction, having this kind of, hey, we wish that you would include this, and then me just bouncing back, talking to the factory, how much is this going to cost? Are we going to be able to pull this off? Adding the alien heads, them telling me how it's going to work, me green lighting the alien heads, and getting that reaction from people. I really see a boost in enthusiasm for the campaign, and I feel like the enthusiasm for the campaign has just gotten higher and higher as time's going on. So, I really like. I guess like traditionally people want to see it get like at least 50% funded on the first day. That's not how this campaign has worked out. It just hasn't gone that way. It's going to go in its own way, and I think we're going to see that. I think things are going to ramp up more and more as time goes on.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, I think with a lot of people who are creators, you're not always going to succeed on your first try out, but it's those that learn from their mistakes and keep moving forward who are the ones that are successful. So I'm glad to hear, you've definitely got, plans and such. And it's also nice to hear that, like, obviously, Big Bad Toy Store is got a lot of people that go to it every day. So if you don't even have those numbers in this Kickstarter yet, then that could definitely, I could see that giving you a big boost once those numbers get added and such. So sweet. Now, speaking of crowdsourcing items, I know you've been talking about this a lot as well, and I think it's on a lot of people's minds. But there's another little company out there with a
And by
crowdsourcing
the way, I
item.
want to mention. Oh,
Go ahead.
uh, my bad. I wanted to mention that if anybody backs the project while we're on this live stream, I will hit the Infinity Gauntlet over here for helping make a dream a reality. So let's alter reality during the stream. Back the project, and I will hit the Infinity Gauntlet right here so we could, bring this from dream to reality. So let's see those numbers go up, you guys. Come on.
You got to snap it, so make it happen. All right, but speaking of Marvel Legends and turning the tables, let us talk about Giant Man here. So I know you think this is going to get backed.
I will.
and I think if Hasbro has not included international backers, I think this definitely has a good chance to get backed. But if we're just waiting on the people who waited to the last day, I have less confidence that this is going to get to 10,000 in the remaining time left. But in your own thoughts, like, even if this does eke over 10,000 backers, at the end of the day, I feel like this campaign has not had the same kind of excitement around it as like Galactus and Sentinel. And I just want to get your thoughts on why you think that is.
Yeah, to me, it's a little bit. I'm more or less like just about as excited for this Giant Man as the Sentinel and Galactus. So I think, from my point of view, it's a little bit odd to see. I'm really pumped for this one. I really wanted this one for a long time. So for me, it's kind of a trip to see people a little bit less interested in it. I guess like with the Sentinel, the army building factor, right? But Galactus was not an army builder, so that one did really well. I think people are. I don't know. I think people are sore from the Engine of Vengeance, and they're kind of hanging that over Hasbro's head. And I think maybe because Hasbro's trying to dial back a little bit and not go so strong with their tiers and everything, or just the project in general, I think they've been really, I mean, they've said it, they've been very conservative with this particular project. So I think that them being so conservative has kind of taken away a little bit of the excitement of, oh, what's to come? What are we going to get next? Like, what else is going to be added here? Or where is this going to go? It's kind of like they put it out there and it didn't really go up anywhere. There's like no place for it to really move, I think. Yeah, they just revealed the Wasp figure earlier today, and I think it looks great. I think this should definitely help the campaign. I wish they thought of doing this earlier. Like, why they waited till now, I don't know. The only reason I believe they waited till now is because they didn't have it ready yet. Like, I think they would have shown this off earlier if they had it ready earlier. Or yeah, I don't know. I still think it's foolish to wait so long to actually put this up there. But I have a feeling that there's a lot of people that are kind of sitting on their hands a little bit, just a little bit reluctant in moving forward. Also, times are a little bit rough and everything. There's a lot of stuff out there, you know what I mean? So the world economy is kind of not doing great. So there's all kinds of factors involved here. But I really think probably the thing that's hurt the campaign the most is that it feels like there's nowhere for it to go. It's more or less, here's the Giant Man. We got some heads if you want them, but here's the freaking Giant Man. and that's kind of it. So I don't know if they had gone 250 and had two 6-inch scale figures in there, I think that could have created a little bit more buzz. But they wanted to play it safe, and I can't blame them for them wanting to play it safe. And for those of us like myself who just want the Giant Man, I'm fine just paying $200 for a Giant Man. I don't need to have all the extra tiers and stuff like that. I feel like it's a fair price for a huge ass figure like that. I mean, I would have expected more people to kind of just be on board with just that offering, but people want more. They want more excitement. So I think the thing that's hurting it is that it's not sexy enough. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I think Hasbro did a good, I think they were smart to, and I'm assuming the Wasp and probably Yellow Jacket, I've heard, is another one, and maybe a 6-inch Giant Man. And I wouldn't be surprised if, like, tomorrow we get a look at the Yellow Jacket figure, or, whatever else. And I feel like these would have been obviously the stretch goals had Hasbro gone with a higher price on this campaign. But to me, I think it's smart to do it this way, because for those that say just want Wasp, because, like, to me, I look at that classic Wasp and I'm like, if I got that figure, I'm going to display it with my Ant-Man, not my Giant Man figure. So I don't really need Giant Man for a classic Wasp, and I mean, that's just me. So the fact that I don't have to get the big guy if I don't want him to get the others, I think is good, or vice versa. If I want Giant Man, but I hate that classic Wasp look, I don't have to pay for it. And and if you want both, then you can just you buy them separately, and it's not really much different. So, and I agree with you, I think they probably waited too long to start showing these off. But who knows why they chose to do that, or what have you. But yeah, I think in this case, those who are complaining, saying these should have been included with the HasLab, I think either they don't realize that if they were included, the price would have gone up. I feel when people say, well, they should have thrown in like 5 figures and then expecting it was still going to cost $200, it's just completely unreasonable. But I think that's how some people look at it, is they feel like these things are free, and I know that's kind of the illusion that they present, but they're not. Nothing's for free. Now, you being, a big Marvel Legend guy, do you think in your own, what you see around, when you're talking with your viewers and stuff, do you think just like overall interest in Marvel Legends has started to decrease in the last couple of years? Or do you think, Marvel Legends is still, as popular as it ever was?
Well, it's definitely. I think the popularity has died down. I don't think. Yeah, the popularity I think has died down, and I think they've gone probably a little too hard with their quantity. I think they're making a little bit. Uh, it feels like there's almost too many figures, and that's one thing I was able to say to them at San Diego Comic Con, is that it just seems like it's too much. I feel like there's a sweet spot there that they haven't really quite nailed. Now, I remember a time where it seemed like it wasn't enough. Like, I know you remember this too. Like back in the day, it's like things really, really fizzled down for a while, and then I feel like I think they hit their sweet spot around 2016, something like that. Whatever number of figures that were coming out a year in that year, I think that was a pretty good year. But I think with them having so many figures come out, I feel like it's kind of hurting the line a little bit. Now, what did they say? If we're making 90 figures a year right now, do you want us to dwindle it down to like 30 figures a year? Maybe 30 isn't the number. Maybe it's somewhere like 60. I don't know. But I do think that because of the quantity, it's allowed for them. It's kind of opened the door for a lot more reuse and a lot more frustration with consumers not seeing as much love packed into each figure, or much love going into each figure. So like I think a perfect example is like when I brought up the the Target exclusive Black Widow, and then comparing that to the '97 X-Men Storm. It's like, man, these two items here are the same price, and one of them comes with so much more than the other. Like, one is so much more disappointing than the other. Like, what gives? What's going on? And I think it's a result of that, that overall huge number of figures coming. That volume is just getting a little bit too high. So I think that has led to a lot of the popularity going down. Looks like we got 2 more backers. We got to hit this thing 2 times, you guys. There we go. Yeah. Come on. Thank you, number 407. We got to give some love for number 408. All right. 2 more backers right there. Thank you so much, you guys. Thank you.
So, getting back to Marvel Legends. So, okay, Marvel Legends popularity is down. Do you think there's also a connection with, like, maybe a decline
the dream
in
is coming live.
MCU? Also, maybe not as popular as it once was. Like, I feel like ever since Avengers Endgame, people's interest in the MCU has kind of gone down as well. So, I feel like there's kind of a correlation there. And to your point about, like, how much product, unfortunately, with all these Disney Plus shows where Hasbro has to do product for all these different entertainment properties now, that also, basically creates this huge amount of product that ends up getting thrown at us.
That definitely has a huge. I absolutely believe that has something to do with it as well, because the MCU is like the ticket to like the general public, right? Like, that's like, if you're to talk to, like, I don't know, like an old high school buddy that you knew didn't collect comics way back then, and then all of a sudden, like, yeah, I'm really liking those Marvel movies. So, like, okay, I know this guy didn't collect comics. He don't give a shit about comics, but he loves these movies. You know what I mean? Like, that kind of person who would possibly get into collecting, like, that demographic of collectors is, I think, kind of getting smaller. I think people are kind of trusting into the whole MCU, the whole Marvel universe, a little bit less. We have less character. I mean, think about how many characters we've lost. Like, fundamentally important characters. Now, unfortunately, Chadwick Boseman lost his life. I can't. But we lost Black Panther. We've lost Iron Man. We've lost Captain America. Like is Hawkeye officially out? Hulk doesn't really pop in when he's supposed to pop in anymore. Hulk's gone full on smart Hulk. When was the last time we saw Hulk rage out? Right? Like, we don't see that. Like, Hulk is, it's just a watered down Hulk as the smart Hulk, which I like, but very few times we actually see him get mad. I saw him throw a big rock and get mad when he threw a rock. That was like the only time I saw him get mad recently, right? And then so it's like, and then Black Widow's dead. So it's like, in a way, aside from Thor, and then Thor Love and Thunder was kind of disappointing. That went way too goofy. So it's like, those 7 characters right there, like, we've lost like the key components of what we had with the Marvel universe. And for the newer characters that have come in, some of them are great, some of them not so much. Luckily, I think Paul Rudd's Ant-Man is fantastic. I liked Quantumania a lot. But you have, like, Captain Marvel. You have that whole situation with Brie Larson and her just not being very popular. Not like, what now? What else are you going to do? Because we don't have Tony Stark. It's like, she's supposed to replace one of these big heavy hitters that we already loved, but she's not doing it for us, and then we have Shuri as Black Panther. Like, okay, great, cool, but she's not Chadwick Boseman. She doesn't have the same kind of charisma as Chadwick Boseman. I think they should have kept that character alive, by the way. but that's just my personal thoughts. You know, so I think now I'm just going on a rant about the MCU. Wanda has stepped up. Spider-Man's been great. You know, the Spider-Man stuff I thought was really awesome. It's just that I feel like they kind of didn't really plan ahead enough about really kind of like securing that that foundational group of characters that really made us fall in love with the MCU in the first place. They're all pretty much gone.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I think their biggest mistake, Feige's biggest mistake, was he should have waited until he established his MCU, X-Men, and Fantastic Four before he retired characters like Steve Rogers and Tony Stark and stuff. I think they could have retired them eventually, but I think they should have waited until they had some new heavy hitters, because most of the characters they have in the MCU being highlighted now are characters that really couldn't even hold their own comic book series for as a solo series for any given period of time. I mean, Doctor Strange is a great supporting character, but you know, how many times has his book been canceled over the years and stuff? So I just feel like that was their big mistake, is not getting those heavy hitters established before they retired their older guys.
Yeah, I agree. How many Captain Marvel #1 comic books are out there?
Right. Yeah. But I guess, you know, we'll see how things go there. It's certainly still better than the DC universe, that's for sure. But hopefully that'll turn around too. All right. Well, we're coming up on an hour, so I think you're going on someone else's live stream later this evening. So,
Yeah,
um, you know, you're doing the round. It's like when the
yeah.
talk.
I need to catch up on. It's been with the Kickstarter and everything. It's been crazy. I haven't seen the Ninja Turtles movie yet. I still need to catch up with Blue Beetle. There's like a lot of movies that I haven't seen. I need to catch up with the Disney Plus series I genuinely liked Loki a lot. Now I do think it's smart that they run with Loki. Like Loki is actually one of the better Disney Plus series. I think that's one of my favorite ones. So that one I'm pretty excited about. So they are finding parts here and there, but I haven't seen it yet. Moon Knight was okay. I just didn't like the end to Moon Knight. So some of them are cool, but yeah, for the most part, we haven't really found. I think you're right. They should have like established like a really strong cast of heroes via X-Men or Fantastic Four for moving away from the core Avengers group. But all of that I think has had a negative impact on the figures. How are you gonna get super excited about picking up 20 Captain Marvel figures if you don't really like Captain Marvel that much?
Yeah. All right, man. Well, I don't want to keep you anymore. I want to thank you for coming on this evening. Sorry about the delay that we have going here. It makes it kind of hard to talk back and forth. But if there was one final thing you could say to everybody about Street Humans and why they should back your campaign, what is it that you would tell them?
Yeah, this is an action figure line from a collector to collectors. So this is really to help enhance your collection. And I want you guys to have fun with these figures. I have been having a great time with these figures. I've been having so much fun. I've played with a lot of 112 scale posable figures like over the years. 15 years. I have 15 years experience playing with these things on YouTube, and then an additional 5 or 6 years before that. And this has been a lot of fun. I really want you guys to have these figures in your hands. So do yourself a favor, back the project and help make this a reality. And again, this is only the beginning. Like, we can go to the moon and beyond with this. We could get motorcycle helmets, we can get ski mask heads, nylon mask heads, we can get variants with tattoos. We can get different colored garments. We can get unique, multiple different ethnicities. I have all kinds of countless ideas that I want to incorporate with this line. So I ask that you participate in this project, join the fun. I want you guys to have this in your hands, back the project. Let's see how far we can take Street Humans.
Nice. Well, I wish you the best of luck with it, and I will definitely keep watching it for you, and hopefully, I am keeping my fingers crossed that you make it to the finish line on this, because I know you put your heart and soul into this line, and I want to see you succeed on it.
Hey, thank you very much, Jay. I really appreciate it, and thank you. Thank you.
No problem. All right, man. We'll talk to you later. Oh, go ahead and plug. What's the next live stream you're going on?
Or, oh, toying around. So I'm hopping on toying around at 6 p.m. and I should have some other guests with me. So part of the team. So we should have Vinny, Brandon, and David all on there. And yeah, so that's at 6 p.m. Then I have a Whatnot live stream at 7 p.m. after that. So hope to see you guys there. Those will be like the fifth, fourth and fifth, or fifth and sixth live streams of the day. I don't know. This is the third one, so those will be the fourth and fifth. Yeah,
Cool,
5 live
cool.
streams one day.
Nice. All right, man. Well, thanks again for dropping by, and good luck with everything.
All right, thank you. Really appreciate it, Jay. Take care.
All right, guys. So hopefully, you know, I want to hear your guys' thoughts. What do you think about Street Humans? Um, you know, did you hear anything from Shartimus tonight that, like, first of all, I assume most of you probably already heard about Street Humans, but if, like, this is the first time you're hearing about it, let me know in the comments. But for those of you who knew about it, and, were you on the fence? Have you already backed the campaign? Um, you know, Let me know. I'm interested in hearing your thoughts. And again, I'm sorry for the delay there. I'll have to, I told you this is my first time I've had a guest on. And when I was doing the test earlier, I didn't have this kind of delay. So I'm not sure why that happened, but that was a little annoying. But I appreciate Russ for coming on here and talking with us tonight. Ian says, Russ on spot waiting to hear. Yeah, that was definitely awkward, but I think it came out okay. But like I say, did he change your mind? Like, if you were somebody who was like, yeah, I really don't want to back this. What are you looking for? What do you think would change your mind if you're not backing it, or if you are backing it? What is it about the line that you are, that has piqued your interest with these figures? Jerry says, I'll back Street Human Shark the following day. If Giant Man gets canceled, I'll back it a week later if Giant Man gets approved. And I mean, that's a good point. That, and this is something I've said that's kind of like with all these crowdsourcing items and stuff, is like there's just so much stuff now that it's like it gets really hard to just like manage it. I mean, like, oh, did I it's like, you find yourself going, how many Kickstarters or crowdsourcing campaigns have I backed this year, and when are these figures going to get released, or when are those figures? I mean, there's just so much out there these days that I think it gets harder and harder to kind of manage it and keep it all straight. And I've seen some people say like Shartimus didn't pick a good time because like there's the HasLab and the Super 7 and stuff, but I feel like there isn't really a time in the year anymore where there aren't like tons of crowdsourcing programs going on, because Hasbro's doing like 4 or 5 a year. Mattel is going to be doing like, I think is I think the Masters of the Universe Origins is going to be this year, so that's going to be their third crowdsourcing campaign that they've launched this year. Super 7 has done two, and that's just to name a few. So it's like, and that's not even counting like all the smaller independent guys and their individual Kickstarters like Shartimus. So there's just like so much stuff out there. Arthur says, I feel like partially suffering from the same issue as Giant Man HasLab. There's some general negativity revolving his channel for some pretty dumb reason, and that's tainting the campaign. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, there's always going to be people that don't like something or going to complain about something. I mean, Hasbro is a perfect example of that. I definitely, in the last several years, and as Shartimus kind of touched on, anger towards Hasbro for whatever reason has, in my view, on social media at least, is at all-time highs. There's people that just come out of the woodwork and start saying like Hasbro's ripping people off and stuff. I mean, $200 for Giant Man really is not a bad price. I had a discussion on Facebook with this guy that was telling me that because NECA had done an 18-inch Deadpool figure. I think those NECA figures were 18-inch if I remember correctly. But I'm talking about the really tall Marvel figures that NECA did for a little while, and they did that Deadpool figure, and that figure, which came out in 2016, mind you, was $102. And this guy was saying, well, Hasbro should be able to do the same thing because NECA released a really tall figure back in 2016 for $102. And this is what this guy wasn't realizing is, first of all, a lot has changed since 2016. Prices all across the board have gone up significantly since 2016. So if a figure that cost $102 back then, was released today, it would definitely cost more. Now the thing about the NECA figure was was a general release. Places like Target and Walmart carried that figure, and NECA released that figure several different times. They did the X-Force Gray version, they did the regular version, there was a special edition version. So NECA found a way to re-release that same mold 3 different times, hence getting more money out of that mold. But one of the big differences between that Deadpool, which again, well, I should say 2 differences between that Deadpool and the Giant Man is, first of all, Deadpool is a much more recognizable character. He's one of the most popular characters in the MCU. So like retailers are going to be much more interested in carrying a Deadpool figure than they are a Giant Man figure. But also, when something is released at retail that is mass produced, it means it has a higher production at the factory. And therefore, if you know anything about manufacturing, the more you have something produced, the cheaper it becomes to make. And so that brings down the price. Now, you'll hear people say, well, Hasbro shouldn't have released this as a HasLab. They should have just released it at retail. But here's the thing. This thing is struggling to essentially sell 10,000 units. You don't think retailers are looking at that and going, I don't want to touch this with a 10-foot pole because I'd get stuck with a lot of unsold merchandise if I did. If Target and Walmart combined just carried 2 of these figures in their stores, that would be over 13,000. Their stores in this country, that would be over 13,000 units that they would sell. Now that's not a big order for a retailer like Walmart and Target. If they only carried 2 figures in each of their stores, that wouldn't be a big order, and they would probably have a hard time selling through all of that inventory, because again, we're looking at this HasLab and there's not even 10,000 people that just want to buy this right off the bat. This might get over 10,000, the HasLab, but it's going to be, it's basically just barely going to crawl over that 10,000 mark, and you can see it's struggling. So even if it does get backed, there you can see there's just not this huge demand for Giant Man. And I think that's the number one thing going against this figure. It's not that it's a badly made figure; it's a really nice figure. It's got really nice detail. The eyes look good. The texturing looks good. It's got good articulation. So, I mean, Hasbro did a really good job making this figure. And again, the $200 price tag for something that is a limited release like this is not a bad price. But I just don't think Giant Man is popular enough on his own, and that's why this is struggling. And to be honest, as much hoopla as there was over the Engines of Vengeance last year, I still say the number one problem that campaign had wasn't price, it wasn't the stretch goals, it was that Robbie Reyes Ghost Rider and his car just didn't have a wide enough appeal to attract enough people. Um, and that, that is where these Marvel Legend HasLabs are struggling, because I think Hasbro's having a hard time coming up with these big giant items that are going to have mass appeal. Sentinel, super popular. Army Builder. Galactus, major player in the Marvel Universe. Looks really cool. It's got a lot of cool, heralds to go along with him. Giant Man, not so much. He's an Avenger. He's probably one of the least popular Avengers, especially of the original team. And not only that, but even if you are a Hank Pym fan, Hank Pym has had so many different personas and costumes over the years, Ant-Man being his most iconic, that if you're really like just this big Hank Pym fan, you're probably, your go-to is probably Ant-Man. And then on top of that, even if you are like a big Giant Man fan, we've already gotten multiple Giant Man figures over the years. We always talk about the Toy Biz one, but Hasbro did a modern one where they did both the 6-inch and 12-inch version not too long ago. That's what I have on display. My Toy Biz Giant Man figure lives in a bin these days. I don't display that figure on my shelf. I display the more modern Hasbro, one that in the more modern costume, because I think that costume looked better than the classic one. But you start, you take something that's not like huge, and then you start kind of whittling away at why people might not be interested in backing it, and it becomes pretty easy to see why that campaign might be struggling. Now, whether or not it funds, I mean, today, let's see. So I've been watching this, and right now, since 10 o'clock last night, this campaign, the Giant Man campaign, has gained 173 new backers. So I've been watching it from 10 p.m. each night, like a 24-hour period. And this is today's, it may even get, we're still 2 hours away from 10 p.m. So I don't think we'll get to 200 backers in the 24-hour period, but we'll get pretty close. But definitely, this is the most backers today that this campaign has seen. And there was a decent jump when that Wasp figure got revealed. So I do think that is helping, but right now, just not enough. Even if this did 200 new backers a day between now and the remaining 4 days, it wouldn't be enough to get to 10,000. And that's where I say, unless Hasbro's sitting on a bunch of overseas, international backers that they have not added to the counter, which I do think is a very good possibility, I don't think this will get backed. But if they are sitting on those, then, we could easily see this counter jump up a couple thousand, maybe even the 3,000 needed to get to the top, in just like one day, which I think is what happened with the Sky Striker. I mean, the Sky Striker, for those of you who were watching that one literally gained like 5,000 backers in one day. Like on its last day, it basically was only halfway to its minimum goal, and nobody thought that campaign was going to reach, get funded. But magically, there was like 5,000 backers, that ended up, in fact, it went past the minimum goal and unlocked. It didn't unlock all the stretch goals, but it unlocked a number of them. But I don't think it was like that many people were just sitting and waiting until the last day. I think Hasbro had a bunch of overseas backers that they ended up throwing onto the counter there in in those last hours that really pushed it over the top. And I would not be surprised if we don't see that with Giant Man. But we'll have to wait and see. Jerry says Giant Man funding is like the U.S. president. What are you saying, that you want to recount? Well, they might not wait. They might wait literally until the last day. If they are sitting on international backers, they may wait until the last day to put those in. And I don't know why they do that. It may just be that, like, and when I say international, I'm not, there are some international Pulse websites, in certain areas where people can buy the figure still directly through Pulse outside of the United States. I would assume those would get counted immediately. But I'm talking about, the retailers that, outside of Hasbro that are taking orders for this, like EB Games in Australia is taking pre-orders for Giant Man. So they might not even submit their orders until like the second or last day for Hasbro to be able to count them. So, it may be that Hasbro just doesn't get those until the very last, because the retailers probably don't want to be like constantly sending in numbers to Hasbro. Okay, well, today we got this, they're probably just waiting until the very end, and then they're going to send in the number. We'll send in the numbers for Hasbro to then add them to the counter. But so I really would not be surprised if, come next Monday morning, we're still sitting at like it needing somewhere in the neighborhood of 3,000 plus backers, and then all of a sudden you just see that counter go up and hit the 10,000 mark. I really would not be surprised if that happened. But again, I don't think it's like that many people are just waiting until the last day to back it. I think it's those international orders that would get added if that ends up happening. I think right now, with the increase, we went from like before New York Comic Con last week, we had it was averaging around somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 or so backers, and then like during the weekend of New York Comic Con last weekend, it was it started to go up to like 60 into the 60s, and then yesterday was the first time I had seen it go over 100 in some time, and then today today's backers are going to be even more than yesterday's, and I think that steady increase is the people who have been waiting until the last minute to back it. But again, those people alone I don't think would be enough to get it over 10,000. Ivan says, if the designs were more like the teenage designs, I would back it up, even by big bad prices. But as mentioned, the designs look kind of basic, and I don't feel to back it up. I assume you're talking about Street Humans, Ivan. I I see a lot of people who like say like they're cool, but they're kind of basic. But that was like when I asked him if his oops, sorry, yeah, subscribe to the channel. I didn't mean to hit that, but I think especially when he first started this concept, one of his ideas was being a big Marvel Legend guy. He was looking at developing nicely articulated street thugs to have your